I'm pleased to say I'm joined by Dave Dugan from the SNP and Ian Murray, the Shadow Scottish Secretary. Dave Dugan, I'll come to you first because Ian Blackford used his two questions on the cost of living crisis, saying basically the VAT rise should be put on hold. But obviously if you want more money for health and social care, and by dint of that more money going to Scotland, the government has been quite clear taxes are going to have to go up.
Well, if the United Kingdom government stewarded its finances in the same way as the Scottish Government, they'd have been providing health and social care in an integrated fashion, the way we've been doing in Scotland for many years. So this is a UK tax to an English problem that we don't have in Scotland in terms of funding social care. However, the cost of living crisis affects all of us, and the UK government's measures to try and resolve that are simply not there. In fact, they're compounding it with this completely unjust rise to national insurance, and that's something that everybody should be very concerned about, that they're so disconnected from the realities of people in everyday life.
And what about the idea that in these unprecedented times and the amount of money that the energy companies are making, that there should be some form of windfall tax on them?
Well, I think a levy or a windfall tax is a blunt instrument, and I think it's far, and also wouldn't raise the types of funds that we need to support people right across these islands. So I would be far happier to see broader taxation across the economy to capitalise in a fiscal sense on the excess profits that have been made, not just by energy companies, although these should definitely be included in the mix, but also the supermarkets and online retailers like Amazon, who've also done tremendously well over the last 2 years, and we should be making sure that the tax they pay reflects those profits.
No, the reason I ask about a windfall tax on the energy companies is that the First Minister has today indicated that it is something that should be looked at.
Well, I don't think these are not times to throw any idea out of hand. So, we should look at what we can do to justly and fairly do to raise taxes to the benefit of people who are facing extraordinary challenges in the cost of living. But what we shouldn't do is challenge investor confidence in North Sea oil and gas and energy renewal projects, so that we can use that confidence in the primes and in the oil and gas service sector that are in my constituency and across the North East, to make sure that the investment is there, both public and private, to make sure that the just transition isn't just rhetoric from politicians, but it actually provides jobs and renewable energy on the ground.
Ian Murray, do we now need a windfall tax on the energy companies?
Well, we absolutely do. Let's just put this into context of where we are at the moment in Scotland. And Dave's it's a valiant defence of why we shouldn't be having a windfall tax on oil and gas companies. But let's just put the contrast into the reality. I've got constituents who are by no means unique right across Scotland who are having to make the decision about heating or eating at the moment. In 2020 Scotland, that is completely and utterly unacceptable. At the same time, we have the Chief Executive of Shell calling this a momentous year for profits driven by the energy crisis, and the Chief Executive of BP calling the energy sector at the moment a cash machine. Now, we're not talking about a windfall tax that damages investment. Those investment plans have been in place for some time. We're talking about a windfall tax on excess profit. £750 a second in excess profits the oil and gas industry are making, and bills are going up by £700. We've been promoting now for months a fully costed plan that takes all of that into account, and those with the broadest shoulders should put more into the pot than things like the national insurance increase, which is costing families even more money. We're in the middle of a cost of living crisis, which one constituent said to me at the weekend, everything is going up, bar his wages. That's where we are. So the oil and gas companies should do their bit and use some of their excess profits, much of which is going back to shareholders, incidentally, to help people with their gas bills in the short term.
So you are confident that if you tax the energy companies more, it won't affect the investment in areas like the North Sea where you're trying to get to renewables?
Well, no, because this is excess profits. This is profits made on the back of this energy crisis. The oil price is double from where it was last year. The cost of gas has gone through the roof. And I just can't understand why the Conservatives and the SNP don't want to get those with the broadest shoulders to contribute to people who are having to make the choice, David, between heating or eating. I cannot say that and emphasise that enough. And, David talks about perhaps putting in a whole host of other taxes to other sectors. Yes, but the opportunity to do that windfall tax happened in the House of Commons last Tuesday, and neither the SNP or the Conservatives backed it. And the country backs it. 71% of the public in a recent opinion poll said yes, the excess profits on the oil and gas sector should be used to help people with their bills.
Dave Dugan, we had some drama in the House of Commons when a Labour MP got up and said new photos had been released of what appeared to be a party in Downing Street, a bottle of champagne or Prosecco or something like that, and the Prime Minister standing behind a civil servant with tinsel round his neck. It appears that this is not something that the Met Police are looking at, but again, does it bring Partygate into sharp focus?
Well, this whole pantomime is an absolute embarrassment for the political apparatus within the United Kingdom and the Number 10 operation in particular. You know, I don't understand what backbench Tory MPs are mithering about. This Prime Minister is finished. He's dead in the water. His career as Prime Minister is over. And also, even if he could be saved, you know, Boris Johnson, like David Cameron before him, will just cut and run when it suits him. So this is an opportunity for Tory backbenchers to get into gear and take the initiative and remove him from office, because he's broken the rules, he's broken trust with the British people. It's a colossal betrayal that there is no road back for. He's playing for time. We had to wait for the Sue Gray report, then we got an interim report, now we're having to wait for a police report, then we'll have to wait for the full Sue Gray report. He's playing for time, hoping that events overtake him and overtake this scandal in Number 10. And the fact that his employees are getting blamed for it is a colossal collapse in leadership. He's in charge of Number 10, and it's him that's guilty.
Ian Murray, is there not a political advantage if Boris Johnson, as Dave Dugan says, is so unpopular and unpopular in Scotland, that you keep him in place for as long as you can?
Not at all, because there's a moral question here. We can't have the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, of whichever party or whoever it is, breaking the law and thinking they can get away with it. So it's the right thing for the country. It's in the national interest for the Prime Minister to resign. And this one photograph that's caused a lot of scandal that appeared at Prime Minister's Questions today is one of, I believe, over 300 that has appeared. And I believe that Dominic Cummings, the former disgraced advisor to the Prime Minister, says there are even worse photographs than that. Now, let's not forget, let's not rewind and go through Groundhog Day again on your programme, David, but let's rewind to when the Prime Minister said no parties took place. He wasn't at any parties. He couldn't think of any parties. If he was there, he didn't know the rules. If he was there and did know the rules, he didn't know the consequence of the rules. Then he was ambushed by a cake. He's being hung by his own petard now. Time he went so we could move on.